What is up, everybody? I am back on the road this week. I'm in Cleveland for a few days, and then I'm gonna head to Raleigh, North Carolina to do a study group. So I've got a couple days here to finish a few nice trees. I've got this Scots pine behind me here, and then this Japanese black pine over here. It's gonna be difficult to finish everything in time, but I'm gonna show you guys the whole process and then the end result. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. So the first tree that I'm gonna be working on is this Japanese black pine behind me here. As you can see, it's got great nabari, excellent bark. There's some nice movement up into the trunk, and then it's got a great needle size as well. The tree was a little bit weak earlier in the year, so it wasn't fully decandled, which is why we're not getting full bifurcation on every single branch tip. But what I'm gonna do on this tree is go through, thin out some of the old needles, detail wire it up, cut back to areas where we do have bifurcating branches, and then hopefully we can get this tree back on track, maybe even get it in the US National Show next year or in 3 years from now. So we'll see how it turns out. Again, comment down below, let me know what you think of the tree when we get done with it. So when you wire a pine, and particularly a black pine or red pine with needles that sit upright and are quite hard, you want to work from underneath the branch rather than coming up over the top, because if you come up over the top, you run the risk of bending and breaking those needles. Maybe it'll look okay today, but in 2 weeks from now, all the tips will turn brown. So make sure you try to work from the underside of the branch into the tree. It is day 3 here in Cleveland, and I'm working on a different private collection right now. This is one of the best private collections in this part of the country. As you can see, I'm working on a giant Rocky Mountain juniper here. I wired this tree last year, and over the course of this summer, the foliage is elongated to a point where it really needs to be cut back. This tree actually should have been cut back earlier in the summer one time, so that's why it's looking a bit overgrown right now. So what I'm doing is readjusting the branches, cutting back some of the foliage that's elongated too much, and hopefully we'll get just a little bit more growth before the tree goes dormant here in a few months. But I'll show you guys the end result here in just a few minutes. Before I show you the results though, I gotta show you the view that I'm looking at behind the tree here. Check this out. So now that I got the big guy done, I'm moving on to the little bit smaller dude here. This is another Rocky Mountain juniper. I also wired this one a year ago, repotted it, and over the course of this last year, it's managed to slip further and further forward. Part of that was we put a nice little chopstick in the front here, and that slipped out of position, perhaps when it got moved in last winter. So the tree is slightly tilted forward, so I need to push that tree back and then readjust the branches into place. So I'm gonna try to do that without damaging the roots too much. Most of the rootage comes out the rear here, so we're basically just compacting it back on itself rather than stretching it out, so it shouldn't be much of a problem. But we'll see how this guy turns out at the end. If you like it, put some comments down below. Even if you don't like it, put some comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it. So let's get into it. Alright, so the next project is to repot this Japanese black pine. You're probably asking, why the heck are you repotting a Japanese black pine in September? Well, the problem with this tree is that the surface of the soil here and actually all the way down into the root ball is so compact that no water penetrates into it. Now, normally what I would do is aerate the soil, wait till the spring and repot then. But the owner of this tree has a nice greenhouse. He can keep the tree in over winter, so it'll never freeze. It'll stay at a nice consistent temperature, and there shouldn't be any worry about it recovering from this repotting. So that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, so you can see behind me here, we've got the rootage of the Japanese black pine all worked out. I tried not to rip too many roots as I was going through this process. It was mainly just working underneath the root ball, around the periphery, and then trying to aerate as close to the trunk as possible, starting at the trunk and working my way out. As you can see, despite the fact that I haven't cut any roots off of this tree, there are barely any roots around the outside of the root ball here, or the nabari. So it makes me a little bit concerned. The tree itself is quite healthy, so I think it's going to respond relatively well to this, but I don't want to go any further than this. This is as far in as I could get my chopstick to aerate that soil. The rest of this is basically just the nabari. So you can see it's pretty wide nabari on this tree. Next step is going to be to pot it up in a nice porous mix. I'm going to use 1 part akadama, 1 part lava rock, and 1 part pumice, and that should give us a nice mix for the rest of the year into next year. So hopefully this tree will be back on track when we get done.